The human brain reacts strongly to silence. When a conversation suddenly becomes quiet, most people instinctively start wondering what is about to happen next. That brief moment of uncertainty captures attention in a way that constant talking never can. This is where pause power comes in. Taking a short pause while speaking, remaining silent for a few seconds, or thinking before responding can make you appear more confident, composed, and thoughtful. Imagine someone is arguing with you. Instead of reacting immediately, you stay calm and remain silent for a moment. That brief pause often causes the other person to reconsider their words and reflect on what they just said. The same principle applies in group conversations. If people seem distracted while you're speaking, try pausing for a few seconds. In many cases, that silence naturally brings attention back to you. This isn't magic, it's simply how human psychology works. Silence can sometimes be more powerful than words. Many people never stop talking. They react instantly, argue constantly, and respond without thinking. But truly confident individuals understand the value of a well-timed pause. Successful and influential people often take a moment to think before they speak. They observe, process information, and then respond with intention. And that habit alone can make them appear more intelligent, confident, and influential. Number 2, door-in-the-face technique. Imagine you need a favor from someone, but you suspect they'll probably say no. This is where a well-known psychological principle called the door-in-the-face technique comes into play. The idea is simple. You start by making a large request that is likely to be rejected. After that, you follow up with a smaller, more reasonable request. For example, if you ultimately want to borrow $100, you might first ask for $500. The person will likely refuse, but when you later ask for $100, it suddenly feels much more reasonable in comparison. The key factor here is contrast. After hearing a large request, a smaller request often appears easier and more acceptable. However, it's important to understand that this isn't a magic trick and it doesn't work in every situation. Human decisions depend on many different factors. This principle is commonly seen in marketing, negotiations, sales, and everyday conversations. That's why it's useful not only to understand how it works, but also to recognize when someone may be using it on you. The next time you're faced with a proposal, ask yourself, do I genuinely agree with this, or does it only seem reasonable because it's being compared to something much bigger? Awareness is your greatest advantage. The more you understand psychological principles like this, the better you'll become at making independent and informed decisions.
Number 3, choice illusion. Many of us believe that we make completely independent decisions. However, in reality, there are situations where choices are presented in a way that guides us toward a specific outcome. This concept is known as choice illusion. Imagine you want your friend to go shopping with you. If you directly ask, "Do you want to come shopping with me?" they might simply say no. But what if you asked, "When we get there, do you want pizza or burgers?" Notice the difference. Instead of focusing on whether they want to go, their attention shifts toward choosing between the available options. The interesting part is that they still feel like they're making their own decision, yet the conversation has already been framed around a specific outcome. This principle is commonly used in marketing, sales, and everyday communication. People are often given 2 or more options, making them feel completely in control of the decision. However, it's important to stay aware. Before making any decision, ask yourself, am I seeing all the available options, or am I only being shown a limited set of choices? Once you begin to recognize this pattern, you'll become better at making independent decisions and avoiding unnecessary influence. True power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from being aware of how decisions are shaped and learning to think for yourself. Number 4, Franklin effect. One of the most fascinating concepts in psychology is known as the Frank-Couvent, but psychology suggests something surprising. When we do a small favor for someone, our brain often starts viewing that person more positively. For example, imagine someone asks you for a small piece of advice or a simple favor. After helping them, you may find yourself liking or trusting that person a little more than before. This is the basic idea behind the Franklin effect. That is why small acts of cooperation often help build stronger relationships. Helping others creates a sense of connection, trust, and familiarity. However, it's important to remember that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and genuine care. Using people solely for personal gain rarely leads to meaningful long-term connections. Instead, the real lesson here is simple. Small acts of kindness and cooperation can strengthen relationships in powerful ways. When people help one another and show appreciation, trust naturally grows. The Franklin effect reminds us that positive relationships are often built through simple moments of cooperation, respect, and human connection.
Number 5. Power of because. The human brain naturally looks for reasons. When we understand the reason behind a request, we're often much more willing to accept it. This psychological principle is known as the power of because. Imagine someone walks up to you and says, "Can you help me?" Without any explanation, you might hesitate. But what if they say, "Can you help me because I'm dealing with an urgent problem?" Suddenly, the request feels more reasonable. Why? Because our brains don't just process requests, they also evaluate the reasons behind them. This is why effective communicators don't only explain what they want, they also explain why they want it. For example, someone might say, "I need your help because I trust you." That simple reason can make the request feel more genuine and meaningful. Of course, having a reason doesn't automatically mean you should agree to every request. It's still important to evaluate whether the reason is honest and reasonable. This principle appears everywhere, in business, leadership, relationships, and everyday conversations. People respond more positively when they understand the purpose behind an action. So the next time you want someone to understand your perspective, don't just make a request, explain the reason behind it. Sometimes a good reason can open doors that a simple request cannot. Number 6. Multiple choices game. People tend to value things when they believe those things are in demand or limited. In psychology, this is often related to the scarcity principle. Now, think about how you present yourself in daily life. If you always appear available, with no goals, no commitments, and no direction, people may subconsciously assign you less value. But when someone sees that you have a structured life, goals, responsibilities, friends, and personal priorities, your perceived value naturally increases. The key idea here is self-respect and self-confidence. Many people make the mistake of trying too hard to gain attention, but in reality, people are more attracted to those who are focused on their own lives. However, one important point must be clear. This is not about pretending or creating a false image. If you have real goals, real relationships, and real responsibilities, that's enough. There is no need to exaggerate or fabricate anything. True confidence comes from real progress, not from acting. When you focus on improving yourself, valuing your time, and working toward your goals, people naturally start to respect you more. Instead of chasing attention, focus on building your character, skills, and self-worth. That is the long-term strategy that actually works.
Number 7. Selective information. One of the key principles in psychology is that scarcity increases value, not only for physical things, but also for information. When people share everything about their lives, where they go, what they do, what they think, they often lose a sense of mystery and personal value. Selective information is about controlling what you share and when you share it. This does not mean being fake or secretive. It simply means being intentional with your communication. Smart people do not reveal everything to everyone.
They understand that some information should remain private, while other details are appropriate to share. When you overshare, people may start to form opinions about you too quickly. They begin to analyze, judge, and assume more than necessary. On the other hand, when you share selectively, people tend to stay curious, and curiosity naturally increases attention and interest. Many successful individuals and public figures do not reveal every detail of their lives. They only share what is relevant or necessary for the audience. Selective information is not about lying. It is about maintaining healthy boundaries and controlling your narrative. When you manage what others know about you, you also shape how they perceive you. And that perception can significantly influence how people treat and respond to you. In simple terms, not everything needs to be explained. Knowing what to share and what to keep private is a sign of emotional intelligence and maturity. Number 8. Self-control power. Among all psychological principles, the most powerful one is self-control. Many people try to control others, but fail to control their own emotions, reactions, and impulses. True strength begins where emotional control starts. When someone insults you, reacting immediately is easy. Staying calm, understanding the situation, and responding wisely is much harder. A person who can control their emotions cannot be easily controlled by others. In life, you will face situations where people try to provoke you, distract you, or weaken your confidence. But if you maintain control over your reactions, you automatically stay ahead. Successful people do not respond to everything. They do not engage in every argument. They understand when to speak and when to stay silent. Remember this: your greatest strength is not just intelligence, it is self-control. Because the person who can control their mind can also control their direction in life. Start practicing emotional discipline, time control, and decision awareness. In the end, real mastery of psychology is not about controlling others, it is about controlling yourself.
This is the Silent Lesson Official.